Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Hello, hello, hello. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt completely lost? You know, seeking purposeful direction that could and should propel your mission within your divine journey to that next level, but still it hasn't happened. Well, my name is Lauren Michaels Harris, and I'm the founder of P3, the Journey Series. People come to me because they're wounded. Many are scared, and even there are those who are bruised simply because they feel that they are increasingly, for whatever reason, losing their ability to dream. Now, this P3 program is not for a person who's just looking to start a business, no, but rather for those of you out there who have been on your journey and you've been navigating within your divine purpose, but you still desire to elevate to that level that you have not reached yet. If this is appealing, if this describes you, then I want to have a chat with you. I want to hear your story. So use the link below to get registered for your free seat at P3, the Journey Series. And let's get started, one story at a time. I'll see you inside. Click the link.
Before you get it, baby, show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Boy, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind. You walk right past me, pretending like you don't see what's yours for the taking tonight.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Wake that ass up. Get it up. Get it up, get it up. I don't care if you need a bulldozer to get that thing up, get it up. We are here today. It is Monday. And I'm really trying, because I'm telling you what, I could have slept for another hour. I'm just keeping it real. Boy, but am I glad to be here with you. Why? Oh, look it. There's my thing in there. Huh. Well, you can see the light. Okay. Well, listen, I'm so glad to be here with you. What a weekend, right? Ooh, burr. It was cold here in the Chicagoland area, early morning and late evening, nights during the day. But boy, the leaves are falling. Halloween is out. Got an invitation to a Halloween party, so I'm excited. Now I have to figure out how to have the best costume. I'm just telling you. Do you like Halloween? It's one of my favorite holidays, actually. It didn't used to be, even when I was a little kid. Crazy, right? But I really have a good time on Halloween. What about you? So listen, Dr. Lauren with you. Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moment. Mondays are a little rough for a lot of people, but we're going to get through it. Can I get an amen? I'll kick things off. There you go. There's one. So listen, what a weekend, right? Let me show you something. Had an event on Saturday. Almost done with the event circuit for the year. I like to wind it down when we get into Q4. When the animals go south, when the birds go south and the animals hibernate, so does Dr. Lauren. I don't go south, but I hibernate, you know? So anyway, this weekend, a great event in Chicago, right here in Chicago, the second annual Accelerator. The Accelerator Business Summit. Here it was the program. Look at that, right? Beautiful job, Martha Razzo, one of my coaching clients. Just look at this, right? Absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Some luminaries were in the house, and I had such a great time. So I'm gonna show you a couple pics. There is from the stage. I was the MC. Great people there. One of my highlights was this young lady who recognized me. She goes, I've been to one of your events. She was at the last Chicago Power of We Symposium, and she was a part of the Grammy Award winning Chicago Soul Children Choir. Right there. That was at the gala that night. I know. Look at that. And this was one of my favorites. I met this guy, the Heath Treasure. That is his handle. As a matter of fact, I want you guys to get over and check him out. There it is. At the Heath Treasure is where you can find him. What a presentation. The blue collar millionaire, he's known as. I had never met him before. And he, man, talk about rags to riches story. And he just pours back in. Great guy. Great guy. One of my highlights. I have more highlights that I will share with you later as we move down the road known as this week. All right. And great show. The expert show, by the way, the experts are back early, a week early this week, because I'll be on the road speaking again next Wednesday. So, and they usually come the middle Wednesday. So they're coming a week early. The experts will be in the house this Wednesday. And all of them are bringing their favorite quote. We're talking about quotes because I got a new thing I want to share with you guys. I want us all, we should get up every day and strive to live a life where we are a living quote, because when you're quotable, it means you've done something memorable, right? So we're going to talk about that Wednesday. But what are we talking about today? Because it's Monday. Well, today I have a guest who I met at the Becoming the Better You event. That was my third or fourth year. I don't remember which. Down in Kansas City a few weeks back. Angel Prater is here, and she does a lot of things. But her main gig, her jam, let me see. Whoop, and let me tell you, she sent me one humdinger of a bio. She has a lot, but we're gonna condense it a little bit, and she can tell you and fill in between the lines. But let's start with this. She is a dynamic force, this Angel Prater. She's a dynamic force of change and the inspiring founder of the Alchemize Hope. She wears many hats, she says. She's a visionary, a course creator, a coach, master trainer, consultant, and alchemist. And that's what we're going to talk about with her today. She's never been here, so put your hearts on the screen. Oh, wow. Where'd you guys come from? I looked up there was like 7 or 8 and it was moving, but now there's 539 of you. Come on in. Hey, let's get our number, and we try to break our weekly record. So let's find out what we did last Monday and see if we can break that, shall we? Angel is on her way in, but before she comes, welcome to the show, my sidekick. She's been here all 8 years, almost 9 years, January 5th. Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. Delicious. And that's the bell of purpose. I'm going to ring it throughout the broadcast when some truth is on the table, because just like that bell has a ring to it, so does the truth. And speaking of truth, she's coming down the hall right now. Angel Prater, probably wearing some thigh-high boots or some heels, because let me tell you, she got some fashion. Oh, yeah, you'll see. Good morning. Oh, you look like you're getting ready to teach us something today, Angel.
Well, I really like to honor neurodiverse learners, so not everybody can just listen; they need to see. So I always got a backup plan. I always got something going on. So
okay, is that thing
I'm
on
prepared.
wheels?
It is
Good, because when you get ready to do that, I'll get off the screen, and that you'll have the whole screen in memory. That way you can roll it up so everybody can see all the words on it and everything, and we'll just give you the whole stage and let you run with it.
Okay, well, we'll see how it rolls.
Okay, or if it's too much trouble to move it, I understand.
I can just adjust the camera.
Okay, cool. I just want to say good morning to you. Now listen, I told everybody you have an extent. You did. That, good Lord, that bio is long, but that's okay, because I don't usually read them anyway. I take a couple words because I like to leave and let the guest have the first 60 seconds of the show or so to themselves, to create their own vibe. Pour out to everybody from your heart what's on your spirit today, and then I'll come back in and we'll get started with the official interview. How's that sound?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, all you, Angel Prater, take it away. I'll see you later, Miss Prater.
All right. Hey, everybody. It's really an honor to be here. I'm excited. What you'll see here is free hugs. I'm someone who goes out and spreads hugs and loves and light in the world. Being someone who had a really difficult upbringing and first 24 years of my life, I made a promise on July 5th of 96 to dedicate the rest of my life to helping others. Basically, the exact words were, God, universe, whoever the F you are, get me a life I'm into, and I'll dedicate the rest of my life to helping others. And that's what I've been doing for 28 years. Can't say I've been perfect at it, but I can say I've learned a lot about myself, going inward so that I could heal and peel the layers of generational traumas, epigenetics, and healing requires feeling. So you got to feel it to heal it. And Free Hugs is the suicide initiative from a hope-driven perspective. So I'm excited to be here. You're on mute.
Because I was pouring coffee and I didn't want it to sound like I was peeing, so I muted. Sorry about that. Listen, seriously, because when you can't see me and you hear that, you go, what's going on? Listen, when we blew you up, you looked great and you could read the board, so you don't have to change anything. I'll just get out of the way when you start.
Okay.
So let's I get a feeling. Can you give us a little insight before we get into the teaching, the training, the healing? Can you give us a little insight into your origin story? You said 28 years, but take us back to, because all of us that teach or do what we do to ease suffering in the world is because we were inside of that cesspool known as suffering once upon a time, and we had to live through something to be able to get to something. So can you shed a little light on what made you an authority? You know what I'm saying? What'd you get through?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have ADHD, so I don't conform to the Brady Bunch kind of like style where you're sitting in front of a camera. I just can't do it. I'm going old school. So a little bit about me. So the first time I used drugs, I was 6 years old, and I was raised by a beautiful mother. Oh, I'm not even kidding you. It was the first time I smoked pot. I just happened to be in a place with a lot of adults, and my mom worked a lot, and she's my best friend today. And so I just want to put that out there. But when you're a single mother raising 4 kids and you're working 2 jobs, you know, you do what you do. So we were left to our devices as latchkey kids. And, you know, my siblings are much older than me and pretty amazing. So, and then I just started smoking pot on a regular basis at 8 years old. And you know, as humans, we're seeking connection, we're seeking love, we're seeking acceptance, all of the things. And around 10 years old, I was groomed by a local drug dealer. And he used me as a guinea pig. And I think that that's in part why I'm so enlightened today, because I was fed LSD at a very young age. And then I started using methamphetamines at 14, 15 years old, and left home when I was 16. And so I was really looking for something that I didn't know what I was looking for, but living from park benches to penthouses and everywhere in between during the age of 16 to 24. And, you know, as a single mom at 19, I didn't know how to stay in one place already. And so I did the best I could with what I knew how, or with the skill sets that I had at the time. And I knew how to navigate the streets pretty well. I knew how to survive. But what I didn't know was how to stay in one place. So I lived in 9 states and countless cities during that time.
Wow.
And never really stayed anywhere longer than 6 months. And then, you know, fast forward, at 19, 20 years old, here I am with this little baby working at Walmart for $5 an hour, you know, and I'm like, how the hell does anybody survive on $5 an hour, you know? And I had another friend who was in the same situation. And so we got fake IDs, and we were living in Carson City, Nevada.
Oh.
And, yeah. So then we went to Lake Tahoe, and we went, hey, let's go dancing with our fake IDs. And what I didn't know that was going to happen was they had a hot legs contest. And so we entered the hot legs contest, and I won $1,000 in first place in 5 minutes. And it was that moment that changed the trajectory of my life. It gave me a sense of how I was going to utilize my womanhood, if you would. And I never went back to Walmart. And so I'll pause there. It really opened up doorways for financial stability, but also a lot more trauma. And then my daughter was 5 years old, and I didn't know how to stay in one place. She was getting ready to start kindergarten. And that was the only thing that mattered to me, was how do you stay in one place when you've lived this life of, you know, moving
like
around.
A nomadic kind of existence.
Oh,
I get
yeah,
it.
or gypsy, really.
There.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so that was when I was in San Francisco, and I did I used a lot of drugs, but I used them primarily as a survival skill to stay up all night, stay up all day so I could be a mom. But I was really unhealthy. And I did the best I could, but then I just, you know, took the last hit of dope that I had on my way to the next exotic dance club that I was going to in San Francisco. And I just fell to my knees. And I was like, shame was just literally rolling down my face. I was crying. I didn't know what I was going to do to get her into school and stay in one place. I didn't know how. And I just said, okay, God, universe, if you're effing real, give me a life I'm into, and I'll dedicate the rest of my life to helping others.
Give me a life I'm into. Wow. I love that. And here you are. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I used all my lived experience. Literally, I didn't know what that promise was going to lead me to. But I'll tell you what, I had an 8th grade education. I could barely read or write. I have dyslexia and ADHD. I failed out of the traditional education system. And I was just guided, divinely guided. And I've been divinely guided ever since.
That's just, see, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad we went back and picked up those versions of yourselves, of yourselves, all those girls that got you to the woman we see today. Good for you. Hats off, ringing the bell, you guys. See, transparency doesn't kill you. It doesn't kill you. I don't see any blood running down her face or anything. Thank you so much for being vulnerable, Angel. So tell us about this. Well, let's start with what we see on the whiteboard. What do you got for us today back there? Do you want me? I can just dip and let you just take the folks down through there if you'd like. And if you want me to come back in, just beckon me and I'll return.
Okay, or you can stay and ask questions.
Well, I can pop back in. I can still, I'm going to put you up there, but I can still, okay, I can stay. Go ahead.
Okay.
I just want them to see it. I want them to be able to see it clearly.
So one of the most recent things that I really feel called to do is people are dying because our system's broken.
What system? What system are you speaking of?
Great question. Excuse me. The behavioral health, social services, etc. It doesn't mean that people working in the system are broken. It means this macro, the way we provide help in the world is broken. And
so
resources, the way we're driving people down just one traditional wellness or recovery or psychiatric path. It's really interfering with opening up the doorway, if you will, for others who don't necessarily fit in that box. We tend to put people in a box. And our whole society is built off of programming and conditioning throughout our entire lives, right? Not to mention epigenetics has shaped, we passed trauma through epigenetics. So we're carrying around trauma in our bodies. And that's not even ours. It was just given to us or passed down through our genes. And it really shapes our life experience, shapes how we see the world. And this is a huge piece of the need to be self-aware. Self-awareness is key. Because our experiences, as I mentioned earlier, I lived on the streets. I started using drugs at a young age. Well, all of those experiences really shaped my belief systems. And my belief systems are my truth. So we're all walking around here talking, using certain language where we think we're speaking the same language, and I'll get to that in a second. But really, we're talking past each other because we don't know what we're meaning unless we explore the depths of the meaning, right? So we start talking past each other. So to explore each other's belief systems, being aware of our own belief systems, is this my belief or did I inherit it or, having someone else's belief system kind of taught to me or imposed on me? And then our belief shapes our values. Our values are what we determine is good or not good, right? And so everybody's got their own truth, their own experiences, and their own values. Some of them might intersect, some of them might be similar. But how do we really know unless we're exploring meaning and understanding? And then from there, it shapes our behaviors. So it creates what we do. So if I am working at Walmart, my life experience is I'm living in poverty. I'm making $5 an hour and I'm struggling to feed my little girl. And so my beliefs are I'm broken, I'm incapable, and I'm a horrible mother. And the values that I've seen as what is good is I'm seeing other people actually, being able to do the things that I feel I can't do, or because I'm financially struggling. And so my behaviors are survival, right? I get into survival brain. I filter through the lens of my experience, and then I start doing things according to survival.
Can we stop right there for a second?
Yeah.
Let's pause right there for a second. Great place, intersection. Because when a lot of us, I've been there, survival mode, where it's like, okay, I need to get out and hustle to be able to get the money to put a roof over my head tonight, a hotel, or I need to go find some safe place to be able to sleep as it starts to get darker, or checking old cars with the doors open so I can get, all those things.
So
what I'm doing
I see you.
Exactly.
Goosebumps. Spirit is talking. Keep it on.
Exactly. Because the thing is, there's a difference between, sometimes survival pushes us into desperate, or you see what I'm saying? So can you kind of talk, right? Because survival mode isn't like, well, wonder where I'm gonna sleep tonight. It's like, so how do we really take the good out of what comes with survival mode, those instinctual things that keep us. That's why we have survival mode, so that you just don't lay down and say, white flag, I give up, come and take me away. Whatever wants me, come and eat me. Here I am.
Yeah.
Just pick me to the bones, So how do we manage that? What can we do so that we don't panic ourselves into desperate choices, is what I'm getting at. Anything?
Yeah, great. Absolutely. Well, self-awareness, first of all, recognizing and understanding the brain and understanding kind of our natural instincts to survive. And if we can recognize what's happening in our brain in the moment or after the fact or prior to going into the survival, we can change what the brain does. We can create new neural pathways, but we have to be aware. So Dr. Dan Siegel does a hand-brain model. So he teaches us, or kids as young as 5 years old, to recognize when their prefrontal cortex is going to flip. And that's when you go into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or faint, right? And
say that slower. Fight or flight, I got. What were those others?
Yeah. So it's fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and faint. These have fawn and faint has recently been brought to kind of this survival place.
I was going to say I never heard of fawn and faint. What are those? Can you explain those two last ones?
Yeah, well, faint is what it says, right? It's kind of like the fainting goat, right? Oh, shit factor, you right?
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna fall out. And then fawn is, I have an old friend who really described this pretty well. Fawn is kind of falling into this place where you're taking care of everyone else, and kind of the over and beyond, like feeling an extreme sense of responsibility to take care of everyone. And so it's another survival skill, and it puts us in a place of avoiding self and avoiding discomfort and surviving. Okay. So, and then our brain, Jacob Ham does an amazing YouTube video for teachers and talks about survival brain versus learning brain. And so when we're in a trauma activated state, we go into this place of survival brain, which then limits our ability to process information and retain information. And so if we are starting to notice that our whirlwind of chaos, and we're always fighting to get, our needs met, or we're always in a sense of stress or chaos, being able to self-reflect and ask ourselves, what is happening right now? Not what's wrong with me, but what am I experiencing and what's happening, and how can I find a way to bring my prefrontal cortex back down so I can be regulated, so I can see a larger picture. And in order to do that, is really starting to kind of learn to be. We're programmed to be human doers, not human beings, right? And so if we're able to practice just being and hitting a pause rather than reacting, we get caught up in this way in the world of reaction equals pattern. And so when we're reacting, we're in a fear-based reaction. We're forget everything and run, right? We're running from what's inside of us. And discomfort's really hard to deal with. You got to feel it to heal it, right? And so how do we pause, go inward, and start to peel that onion, if you will, to learn about self? And where are my beliefs? What are my experiences? And how is it shaped? And how has it shaped my values? And then starting to really look at the language we use. In our society, we use a lot of diagnostic terminology in the psychiatric system. And it's annoying as hell, because it says nothing about the person. And that's part of the broken system, because we lump people into boxes as if they are going to fit here. So if I said depression on here and we didn't explore, this is the icing on the cake, that's what's interpreted. You're going to interpret it from your lens, from your experiences, and I'm going to interpret it mine. But if we shut up and listen and we pause and we start asking questions, so you say you're depressed, what does that mean for you? Or you say you're suicidal, what does that mean for you? What's the ingredients for you? And then I'll share mine. So now we can start having true reciprocal and mutual dialogue and learning and growing together rather than doing to people.
Okay. It sounds great on paper or whiteboard, as the case may be. But let's go here. How do we, because this was the big piece for me, Angel. I couldn't find it within myself to reach or ask for help because of stigma. I
Yes.
was ashamed. I mean, I had every good intention. How many times have you had the phone in your hand dialing, ready to dial for help or reach out to someone, and at the last second, I've heard it ringing and then hung up because I never could understand, Angel, how my ego still had so much power over me when I was like fighting for my literal life. How do we get past that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, great question. Well, I think about this in big terms. So I think about it in two ways. The individual, so I'm a survivor of suicide, trying to die by suicide, and many of us are, right? And if you look at this,
Many of us.
and you're right, the stigma, this is again part of the broken system, right? So in 2019, over 500 doctors died by suicide. And why is that? Because they're lone wolves and stigma, and they're afraid to ask for help. And then they're afraid to even talk about anything with any colleagues or friends or family because of the way people react or because of their license. They're afraid of losing their livelihood because if you get a mental illness diagnosis,
I hear you, Jamie.
Right?
Thank you. Yes. No, I'm just saying thank you, Jamie Gardner, for being so. That's not easy to do, to say me too. Raise your hand. Thank you so much for that.
Too.
Keep going, Andrew.
Yeah, and so we got to look at this through a lens of training individuals working within the system and changing policies and on all levels of how to be with people rather than do to people. And what does help look like? So our system currently says through insurances, especially, what help is, because this is all they will pay for. So opening up the doorway to allowing some autonomy and reciprocity for people to start choosing what help looks like for them and then getting that. But then learning to respond. And as a person reaching out for help, finding your allies, looking through a lens of, okay, there's many times that I have gone down this. I've lived with suicidal ideation since I was a little girl. And I really started to learn that this was actually a survival skill, not a problem or something to be pathologized. It became a useful skill and tool for me to recognize when I was lacking or imbalanced in my life. When something was coming up, I'd notice it and I'd start thinking about suicide. And I'm like, oh shit factor, I need to take a pause. And then learning who I could talk to, finding my people. And that's why I created a support group for survivors by survivors so that people had a place to go talk to each other without worrying about the stigma or the fear, but really honoring the journey together in a way that was hope-driven and not fear-based. It's not easy.
That's beautiful. Hope-driven.
Hope-driven. Hope-driven. So again, reaction equals pattern. That's a fear-based reaction. Responding equals freedom. That's hope. Responses, not reactions. So that's what I do is I teach people to self-reflect on trauma-informed care is what it is and why it's important. But we've been doing trauma-informed care for decades. But trauma-aware approach is an internal process for an external practice. So if I'm the provider or the helper, I have to be aware of my own bias, my own assumptions, my own reactions, my fear-based reactions, and my own traumas. So then I can filter from this lens.
And I want to say this. It took me a long time to get that down, but that's a big piece, people. That's a big piece. The difference between reacting and responding. Reacting, you hear all kinds of terms connected, knee-jerk reaction. And I know, for one, every time or most times that I reacted, I ended up with the accompanying R, which was regret. When I responded, took time, thought about it, made an informed decision as best I could, I usually ended up rejoicing. So you choose. If you react, you're most likely going to regret. And if you take the time and learn and condition yourself to respond, you'll find that you will be able to rejoice. a lot more often. So take that one with you. Okay, keep going, Angel. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. So, kind of back to what you were saying is, how do people reach out? If I'm so terrified because maybe I just told, I'm not married to him anymore, but I mentioned to my ex-husband once, I said, I'm really in this bad place. And I'm, I feel like I just want to give up. I just want to die. And he knew my history. And I hadn't thought that way in a really long time. And his reaction to my words were meeting his need to his discomfort. So, his frustration or his fear got in the way of shutting up and listening and validating and exploring what was happening within me, right? To seek to understand what my language I was using was, I want to die or I want to give up. He reacted to the icing on the cake rather than exploring it. So I learned very quickly I could never talk to him about what was going on.
So what does that look like when he reacted? What? Are you crazy? So what did that look like?
Yeah. You better go talk to your doctor. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on with you, or whatever, right? And he wasn't a very healthy person, but that was a beautiful way for me to go inward, because I got that itty bitty shitty committee just like everyone else, right? And Lord, I can either, I'm telling you, I can easily fall prey to that committee and then continue to fall prey to his belief. Or I could seek to understand what's happening in me and go, okay, so that wasn't safe. I'm never talking to him again about this. What is going on for me? Why am I in this place? And it was hard to really dissect, because I was in survival brain, because I wasn't in a very calm environment, if you will, right? And so our relationship was a lot of trauma bonding. And so I had to literally start to go inward. And for a long time, I was my only support system, because here I was, an executive director of a nonprofit, trying to manage all of this, trying to manage my kids, my household. And so I wasn't taking care of me. And so when I realized that I was so imbalanced and I was living in the 4 P's of fear, I was predicting everything from a fear-based lens, especially when it comes to my daughter was struggling at the time. And then I was prying into her life or the lives of others. And then I was prescribing what I thought they needed to do. And then that created like this sense of I'm the expert over someone. And what I had to realize is that I was reacting in every scenario of my life to fear from this lens. And when I realized that, I realized I needed to pause. So I started going to the gym. I started releasing some of the energy that I had pent up, because, when we stuff our emotions, it's going to come out our neck sideways eventually, right? And that's exactly what was happening. I wasn't speaking my truth. I wasn't honoring my true self. What I knew I needed for me, I was putting on the sidelines and taking care of everyone else. And so the imbalance and overwhelmness created a place where then I started thinking about suicide again. And so I use that as kind of like a signs, signals, etc., or trauma activation awareness tool. And when that happens, I take pause. I seek support through those that I can trust. And if I don't have somebody that I can trust, I trust myself to then move forward and make different decisions for my own wellness.
Yes. So I want to ask you something. What about the person? A lot of it, because I think a big fear for people is when someone confides in them that they're feeling not healthy, that they're not. I wish there was more training for people who are the support system, because a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? Talk about that. Because it's such an uncomfortable thing. I mean, think about it. Nobody likes going to visit people in the county jail. Nobody likes going to court. Nobody likes going, and for the most part, in hospitals, even if it's the smell, it's the energy, it's the whole thing. So when, you're on the phone and somebody, I remember confiding, summoning the courage to say, okay, I feel like hurting myself to somebody, and they go, oh, cut it out. Things aren't that bad. Anyway, you want to go to lunch? Oh, let me call you right back. Seriously. Stuff like that.
So that's their reaction to discomfort. So they're feeling afraid, and they don't know what to say. And what I try to really help people recognize is don't negate your fear, honor your fear, learn to move through the fear. That's responding. And validating when somebody's talking about big emotions or using language that brings up fear for us, recognizing self-awareness, recognizing what are we experiencing in this moment and how can I respond and not react? Because a reaction doesn't have to look like a big old, right? It could be something like this, like diverting the conversation or finding humor or trying to make light of it or the joke. Those are also reactions, right? They're just a different form of reaction and reacting out of fear. So how do you say, gosh, man, I don't really know what to say right now, but thank you for trusting me in this moment.
Yeah.
What would you like from me when you say you want to die by suicide, or when you say X, you want to go get loaded, or. So being someone who can respond with, I hear you, I see you, and now I shut up because it's not about me. I'm going to honor my truth, but I'm going to give you the space to speak yours without fear.
Judgment. Right.
Judgment.
What about this? Coming back to the person, okay? What I lacked most of the time when I was in that dark place, those dark, the shadow world, was you hear about warning signs that are taught to people who are going to be in your front row seats, your support system. Here are the warning signs if someone in your life is thinking about hurting themselves. But I hadn't learned warning signs to catch myself.
Yeah.
So what can we do? I mean, even I'm not so stupid or naive to think that just because I am this guy right now, that for the rest of my life, I might not find myself sitting in that chair again. So what can we do to put little secret codes or messages out there for ourselves so that when I don't wake up this guy, I have left something to remind me, don't do that. That's not who you are. Remember? Anything like that. How do I put the warning signs where they need to be so that they are just warning signs and not just a sign I fly by, speeding through those intersections?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of things. So positive affirmation sticky notes, like I did that for years all over my house. And it was really helping me create a new story. I was stupid, incapable, unlovable, all of the things.
Thank you,
and
Bridget.
so I needed to then change that narrative. So fake it till I made it, right? So I would say, I am lovable, I am smart, I am capable, all over the place. And I would say them, see them, and hear them 3 times every time, brushing my teeth, all the things. So creating new neural pathways and new stories. But there's many other tools. So back to listening. I help create a warm line for people to just be heard, right? So that they had a place to go. And it's called the David Wompert Oregon Warm Line through Community Counseling Solutions. It's an 800 number. Anybody can look it up. You can use it if you're a provider. You can use it if you're a person struggling. So that's another thing. Post up numbers, reminders. And then Mary Ellen Copeland actually has something that's called the WRAP plan, Wellness Recovery Action Plan, that I really like. But then, if that's not your jam, because it uses a lot of Western medicine terminology, man, go find your crew, go find your soul tribe. There's psilocybin, there's indigenous communities, there's shamans, there's nature is medicine. My friend Ali has Recovery Outsiders nonprofit where they go out and literally nature is, but having little visual cues. Creating storyboards or collages. I keep one in front of my desk of things that I want, because we're accustomed to go to the things that we don't want, or we're programmed to focus on what we don't want rather than creating what we do. So subliminal messages, reprogramming our subconscious mind to then open up new ways of seeing the world and how we focus and being self-aware.
One time, I want to just put some, thank you for that. I want to just throw this out there. I hadn't thought about this in years until just now. So the download is here. So I'm going to put it out there because it's meant for someone. When years ago, I had a roommate who was bipolar, and it was just amazing to me how quickly he could turn. He'd be happy-go-lucky 1 second, open the refrigerator, reach in there for a beer or something, and turn around and throw the beer against the wall and just start tearing shit up. And we came up with a system like where we had a happy face and a face, and you could flip it and stick it on the refrigerator. And he would just tell me, like, if he turned and I wasn't there and I came home and I saw I knew stay the hell away from him. You know what I'm saying? So what about communication, signs, or a buddy, a person that you can go to when you are at your worst, just to eliminate the shaming piece? Have you ever heard of people doing anything like that? Like, before you do anything, let's make a blood oath that we're going to reach out to one or the other. Talk about that if you could.
Yeah. Well, my youngest daughter, she's 23. It's something really interesting because you're turning the sign, right? That's a relational reactive pattern that happens when people don't come up with solutions like that. Then they maintain this reactive pattern, and it becomes this way of being in relationship, right? And so self-awareness of my part in that relational pattern, and then negotiating what's going to work for both of you is really important. My daughter and I actually had the word pineapple, right? Like to interrupt the moment of energetic exchange. And so I'm curious about the language that you use, and maybe we'll get back to that later, of bipolar, because I don't believe that people are bipolar. I think that people acquire a bipolar diagnosis, but that's not answering your question.
Well, you're right.
So finding alignment with people who have maybe similar diagnoses or experiences as a collective support.
Well, wait, let's go back to that for a second, because we don't want to leave people confused. So when you say, and I'm married to a therapist, so that's why I want to go back and pick that piece up real quick. What did you mean when you said what you said about bipolar?
Yeah, so I teach a lot of therapists and psychiatrists and beyond, right? And so what we do is we talk about the language that's used limits the conversation. So I use person-first language. And in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, the DSM, which we are currently in version 5, when you look at the history of psychiatric labels, or actually the psychiatric medication, back in 1954, the first medication was developed, and it was called Thorazine, right? And so I'm filling it down. So maybe somebody needs to hear that. So Thorazine back in, I know many who've been on it. I've been working in the psychiatric system for of the 28 years. And so what I started to recognize is that regardless if you're a person receiving services and you obtain a diagnosis, which feeds stigma, which is partly why people stop talking to people, because they don't want a diagnosis, or they don't want to be seen as fragile, weak, or incompetent because the stigma says they are, right? So when you think about the labels, where did it all come from? So back in the 1954, Thorazine, they said mental illness will not exist by the year 2000. But if you look at the history, to be gay or to have a woman considered hysteria, those were in the DSM, and they were considered mental illnesses. And then they were experimented on and all of that. So when we're using language, it limits what we explore about the person, then it creates learned helplessness.
Right. And that's exactly what I was hoping you would say by pushing on that a little bit more, because the minute you hear a diagnosis, that label, right across from it, a grappling hook has been thrown over into some medication that goes with it. You see what I'm saying? Just like headache, take an aspirin. If you've got arthritis, take an Advil, or take something. So there is that automatic go-to, and it's not necessarily the best route. So
yeah, and I just want to honor that, I've had I've trained thousands of people literally living in state institutions, as well as people who provide those services, right? And I just want to honor that. I don't want to take away from the individuals who really found hope through their diagnosis. Okay, so I want to just name that, because when I got into recovery from substance use, which I don't believe it's a disorder, but that's a whole nother talk. When I got into recovery from substance use, I was told I was an addict, and it gave me a lot of hope. But what I realized later on was how it limited how I showed up in the world. Now, it gave me hope, but it also created how I identified as a person. So here is, oh, you can't really see. Can you go to the big screen so people can see this other chart?
yeah,
Can you hide there, Dr. Lauren?
I
For a
can.
moment. All right.
I'm going to go here. Hold on one sec. You caught me off guard.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Sure.
So I was given this term addict, and it brought me a lot of hope. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not broken. I just have this thing, right? But I went into treatment with my daughter for 6 months. No caffeine, no nicotine, no television, no newspaper, no men, no distractions, except 9 other women and 13 children. And what I learned was with this title or identification of addict, it was really trauma. So trauma was what I needed to address, not the substance use. And so, but I couldn't have conversations outside. Every conversation for years was, hi, my name's Angel and I'm an addict. Or I'd be in the dentist chair and I have a lot of trauma around dentists. And so I don't like going to the dentist, but I have to do it, right? And so every time I started feeling uncomfortable to engage with somebody who didn't come from my peer world of being an addict, right? I would default to talking about my recovery and my substance use to feel better. So it became my identity. What I like to do is ask people what it means to them so that they can start defining who they are outside of just labeling themselves or taking a label and identifying that is who they are versus something they experience.
So can you give us some tips? We're about 6-7 minutes away from wrapping. And she brought up the word hope. So along the bottom, you guys, you'll see one of Angel's inroads, the a-hopeinstitute.com. That's her website. And we're going to drop that one and also her LinkedIn, which is right here. We're going to drop both of those inside of your comment section at the conclusion of today's broadcast. So you'll be able to just click and go. Okay. So give us some tips on just how we can have a better, more efficient self-care system. That's the best way I can put it. Because, a lot of people are sitting here thinking she ain't talking about none of me. She ain't talking about me. I don't have those. But really, I think it's just like insurance. You want to have something there, break glass in case of emergency, something to do when you need to do something. Mm-hmm. Take us there.
Yeah, I would say practice ongoing self-reflection, and it's going to be uncomfortable. You have to feel it to heal it. Also giving yourself grace. I'm not 100% like, oh, she's well. Hell no. Like I go, it's an ebb and flow of a process, and striving towards continually healing and growing for myself is the key, right? So what I've started to practice with my radical busy brain is taking pause. And I learned that meditation doesn't have to be sitting going, ooh, and completely quiet in mind. I find meditation in actively doing things without words around me. And sometimes it's music. So finding a toolkit or creating new tools. And when you feel resistant, or when I felt resistance, I kind of knew that then I needed to try it, and I needed to keep trying it, because deconstructing old ways of being. And if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? We don't have to let our past define us. We get to let it design us. But it starts with learning about our personal selves. How am I? My experiences shaped my beliefs, my values, and my behaviors, and deconstructing that to realize, wow, my beliefs around meditation, like I thought you had to sit there, I can't do that. I'm all too over the place.
Yeah.
So finding, go on Google. Google helps me a lot. I watch a ton of YouTube channels to learn different perspectives. And then lastly, I'd say get close and internal with your higher self. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
That's right.
And we are here for a reason. So learning to pause and learning to be present in the moment, allow ourselves to get connected, stop ignoring our intuition, our ego. When we're in our head, it's our ego. When we're in our heart, that's our higher self. We've got to practice learning to be heart-centered and not head-centric like our rest of our society is.
There you go. Perfectly done. Couldn't have, I second that emotion. Let's put it that way. Listen, you guys, again, a-hopeinstitute.com. And then we're also going to drop in Angel Prater Dan. So Angel, I want to thank you so much. Great job. A lot of great healing and teaching here today. And keep doing this great work. And thank you for reminding us that you have free hugs. Okay. And you guys get over and check Angel out if you, she would love to continue the dialogue with you. Now, listen, I want you guys to get out of here, go out and find a little piece of your higher self. All you need is one E and one R. You're already great. Look for a way to become greater. You're already nice and kind. Look for a way to be nicer, to be kinder. Now, listen, I promise, God willing, to meet you right over on the front porch tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central so that together we can have yet another illuminated conversation. That's what it's about. Now, I tell you, as always, don't let my screen door slam on your way out. And Dr. Lauren loves you. And there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. I'll see you tomorrow. Have the best day ever. Angel, great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys. Bye, everybody.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Oh, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind.